there's been a portion of Dub Nation over the last few years who have wanted to blame Steve Kerr for everything. Absolutely everything. And then you have fans from other teams, national media, talking heads like a Nick Wright, people that follow the Warriors but don't follow the day-to-day are like, well, that's absolutely ridiculous. Like, how could you do that? And to be fair, it is ridiculous to blame Steve Kerr for everything. It is. However, if you are casually watching the Warriors, and I get it, these other people, they have to cover so many other sports and other teams, they can't possibly pay as much attention to one team like most of Dub Nation does. But if they were to have dialed in and watched the year, I think they would have come to realize that, yeah, Steve Kerr was way worse than you could have imagined, despite his resume and what you think of him big picture. And so my point is that it just like most things, it falls somewhere in between. No, you can't blame him for everything, but if you haven't been paying attention, he's been worse than you could have imagined. I guess personally, how I feel about it is the scheme and principle stuff has concerned me. But as far as the situation goes, I think he's kind of been put in an impossible situation. And that's part of why Bob Myers left. We've talked about it, right? He's too close to these core veteran guys to, I think, see things clearly at times. But I think that the positive is listening to these exit interviews yesterday, I have some takeaways, and it sounds like Steve Kerr this was an aha moment of it's time to change. It's time. We have to move into the future. We cannot rely on the past. Take a listen to Steve Kerr.
I think the offense can help the defense. The game has always been connected. And I think, we've had a unique style for 10 years here that's mainly based on the off-ball movement of Steph and Klay, the unique nature of Draymond's being a point center, for lack of a better expression. We have unique players, so we've played a unique style. Some of it planned, some of it simply morphing into the way that we've done things, a way that we've played. We've been turnover prone for a long time, partly because we freelance quite a bit. I feel like the last couple of years our team hasn't been built to withstand some of the mistakes and the turnovers, but also it hasn't been built in a way to support some of that freelancing. So I have to take it on myself to help the players be put in better positions to make better decisions, if that makes sense. One of my most important experiences in basketball was playing in the triangle offense in Chicago. I learned so much basketball from Tex Winter and Phil Jackson. And what Phil used to tell us was we don't run the triangle for Michael and Scotty. We run it for the rest of you guys. We can run anything for those guys, and they'll be fine. But we run it for the rest of you guys to help you make decisions, to help simplify the game. And I'm not going to run the triangle, so don't, put that in a headline. But I need to create a simpler format. We're still going to do a lot of the things that we've done. We can't go away from what has helped make us successful. But I think I need to teach it better. I need to simplify some things. I need to give our guys maybe a little better template for how we're going to accomplish it. Because, like I said, when you connect the game and you can make better decisions offensively, it translates to the defensive end and you become a better team. So I've got to do a better job of that.
So it sounds like, he's finally acknowledged. He said, we're still going to do it. We're still going to do it, right? But, that's what a lot of coaching is about. It is trying to connect the gray area, things that get lost in translation. I was trying to think of an analogy that everyone would understand, but, some of you have kids, and I'm sure a lot of you have babysat for, nieces and nephews or siblings or whatever the case may be. You know how kids take everything literally, right? You say, hey, you gotta keep your hands clean if you don't want to get sick. And so then you proceed to watch the kid wash his hands after every little thing he does. You're like, no, not literally, right? But it's just big picture. And that's what coaching is all the way up to the pro level, believe it or not, where, you know, you have to do a good job with the black and white, meaning like your core principles. We always do this. We always do that, right? But a lot of the game, there's a gray area. And so, you know, for instance, the sagging down in the paint and the stuff that we've been complaining about, the weak side over helping in the paint, some of these guys, they're doing it too literal. You know what I'm saying? And as a coach, you have to figure out a way this stuff doesn't get lost in translation. And some of these players, they don't have a good understanding of the gray area and where to make decisions of what an Andre, a Sean, and some of these super high IQ players we've had in the past, where they understand that. They have this wide spectrum of understanding what the principles are. And then you take a young James Wiseman or even Jordan Poole to an extent, and I think as a coach, you may have to understand you have to shrink the gray area. You got to kind of make it black and white with a young player as far as the principles and the scheme, so they don't get hesitant. They don't get paralysis by analysis type of situation. And it's a balancing act. But I think that it sounded like Steve is acknowledging perhaps we've got to alter some things here. And offensively, another thing that kind of drives me crazy is we understand the split action and the bigs since, you know, this run. They're out there to set screens and pass the ball. You know, Draymond is the face of that. But you're taking away the threat of anything else. It becomes easier to defend because the big is never a threat. And you look at Trace Jackson and his skill set, even Kuminga out there setting screens, not that he's a real big, but, you know, adding another wrinkle to it, adding more of a gray area to some of these sets where there's a third option that's going to keep the defense even more honest. What about Klay's exit interview? Well, let me play you a little snippet.
Bigger question earlier, just how do you view your future with the Warriors heading into this offseason that feels obviously pretty unknown?
We don't want to talk about the season first. You want to talk about the future? There was a lot of games played, man. That was a pretty big accomplishment. What's up with y'all not wanting to live in the present, bro? It's ridiculous. Anyways, what was your question?
About the future. I mean, obviously it's a pretty major topic. I mean, you're a franchise legend here who is an unrestricted free agent and certainly at this point has an unknown future here. I mean, how confident are you that you'll be back?
To be honest, I really haven't given it much thought because of what I previously just said about the season we had and how much commitment it takes to play the games we did and give it our all. So I really haven't thought about that deep in the future because I still need to process the year we had, and it was one filled with ups and downs, but ultimately I personally and our team did everything we could to try and, you know, win as many games as we possibly could.
Klay, man, there's a lot of transparency and wear your heart on your sleeve with Klay that I admire and was part of why I first fell in love with him as part of this team to go along with the snipering and just who he is, right? But there is a tone of entitlement with Klay that, again, it's just I don't think he can hide it, right? He can't help it, but it's just not a good look, man. Klay, like I bet you Klay was the kid who would invite you over to his house and then not let you play with his toys, right? Like Klay, there's just this entitlement with Klay. Now, I had just said in the last video, my thoughts, you can go back and check it out, on how I just think that even if he is willing to buy into the role and make the money work and all that, I think his presence may just be too big for the room as far as rebuilding and his status and the way that he feels entitled to be treated is going to be very hard to move into the future and have guys step up and take bigger roles. And meaning like a Moody particularly, or a Kuminga, Pajemski, right? It's going to be harder for those guys to take bigger roles with Klay's presence, even if on paper, they're saying that's what the plan is. Someone had brought up a point to me, and they said, like, well, no, Klay, I think Klay can. Give him a chance. Give Klay a chance to play an off-the-bench role and a vet role. But part of the point was, like, if we did get a Paul George, or you got a Donovan Mitchell, or even a Karl Anthony Towns, an established star player, I do think that would have a chance of restoring a proper pecking order. And that's what we're talking about, right? Like, Klay disturbs the natural pecking order at this point because of his status and entitlement. However, if they were to bring in a true other star, then I'd be more willing to consider the pecking order being all right with Klay there because of established vet. But if it's just, hey, Kuminga, take another step, Moody, take a big role, I think that's going to be tough with his presence. But these guys are hilarious with these answers, right? Did you catch Kuminga? Kuminga got real African when asked about his extension. Take a listen to this.
You're extension eligible this summer. How do you view those conversations and your future here?
Oh, wow. I didn't even think of that. That's just something that I think my agent going to be working on it. Right now I'm just going to focus on my mental, my body, and everything will handle itself.
What was the biggest challenge in that personal growth that you talked about?
It was more about communication. And communication is the key to everything, no matter how that communication come out. But there is definitely got to be a better communication. I think that was the biggest growth.
No, I said that with love. Please don't misinterpret it. But he got real. You know how, like, when ESL, when English is a second language, when you're a foreigner and someone asks something that you don't necessarily want to answer, the foreigner will get real foreign. Like, I don't. But come on, man. Both he and Klay acting like that hasn't been on front and center on their minds this entire season is absurd. But hey, it is what it is. You gotta do what you gotta do and try to control the optics. But I really did like what he said about communication, because, you know, obviously that's what keeps the team connected. It just to have the chemistry and connection of a team, it goes without saying. But I think for a young player in particular, with his ability, his skill, his talent, the open line of communication is a big part of how he's going to get better, right? Instead of wondering, ask. And that's how you just level up mentally and expand your gray area in the game of basketball, if we're back on that subject. But, you know, another question that was asked, I don't have the snippet for you because Kerr's interview, if you want to check it, it's like 40 minutes, was can Kuminga play the small forward position? And Kerr was like, I don't know. He was like, I don't know. I think we all do know. The issue is probably not with Draymond, right? Like if you change that like it's the Draymond issue. And I'm not saying we don't need Draymond. I'm not saying that. But that's the issue. If Draymond forces Kuminga to be a 4, in my eyes, but can he be a 3? The shooting. We'll see what this. Look, I got plenty of content to come this offseason on. I'll evaluate the young players, the key players, kind of give a scouting report on what they should be doing this offseason and what I hope they should be doing, right? But I think it's just a Draymond fit issue as far as him playing the 3 or the 4, because what do they say? You are who you can defend. He certainly can defend threes. And I could make the argument that that's also just where his advantage lies as far as that bully ball, get to the nail Kawhi game against threes. But yeah, I think that again, it's a fit. And if they shuffled the roster and it looked differently, I don't think you'd be saying, can he play the 3? Now I'm still running Underdog Fantasy promo. Use the code Alchemy. It'll really help the channel. I'm about 40 signups away from hitting my goal. If you have enjoyed the amount of content I've provided with y'all here on YouTube, it's been much more than in previous seasons. Most of my stuff is on Patreon as far as the breakdowns. But to be honest with you, a big part of that is the affiliation with Underdog, because I have a quota of videos, and it's like, I'm not going to just make some BS video. I try to provide quality content each time, but this has been a part of it. So if you're into that or you're thinking about it, that's a great way to support the channel and keep the content flowing, to be honest with you. Now, I've got some picks for this play-in game today. I caution you against the Miami-Chicago game. And hey, and maybe you follow them. They're your second team and you've got something that you like. I'm iffy on all those numbers because I think it may be a rock fight. At least that's what Miami's going to try to do. No Jimmy Butler. Caruso is chipped up. So I don't know what to make of that game. But the Sacramento Pelicans game, you heard De'Aaron Fox say it's really hard to beat a team 6 times in a row. The Pels have won all 5 matchups. I like Sacramento in the game just for the fact that Zion's not playing, right? What a tough break for that kid, man. I have some thoughts on him. But here are my picks for that game. You've got Brandon Ingram higher than 20.5 points. Now, he got sat in the fourth quarter of that Lakers game. He had just come back. He'd been out, to be fair, but Willie Green had sat him. Now you have no Zion. You imagine he's going to have a wake-up game, a game where he's going to have a lot of opportunity and a kind of I'm upset you benched me type of performance. So I like that 20.5 number. I've heard people bring up Brandon Ingram as a possible trade candidate for the Warriors. To me, I think he's cut from the same cloth as Wiggins. I think I spoke about that in the live stream. The other number that I've got for you is an interesting one. It's Sabonis lower than 13.5 rebounds. Now, I know he's a rebounding machine and that you're playing with fire with that one, but the Pelicans, they have the size to match him. They're very active. Their wings rebound, their guards rebound. And if you look at their 5 matchups, he only averaged like 9 or 10 rebounds against them. So those are my underdog picks. Be greatly appreciated if you play along or just support the channel that way. But yeah, I don't know what to make of Chicago, Miami, but I like Sacramento tonight. And then this weekend, check for my playoff picks, at least round 1, and I'll continue to cover the games as they go and get a feel, I think, for some better picks as these series go on. As always, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.